Hello, everybody. This is Rebekah Freedom for Heard Not Seen, produced by John Beethan. We are in episode number 34, going deep in today with booze, drugs, and porn. Let me try to say that title again in case you didn't get it all together now. Booze, drugs, and porn. That's
oh my.
These are otherwise known as my competition as a counselor. Booze, drugs, and porn, the things that I have to go up against because people have bartenders to go talk to, they have porn to turn to, they have booze to drink, all the reliable outlets of which to stuff their emotions.
And it sounds like you have some experience with that.
We're going to have some fun today.
Yeah, no kidding. You already are. In case you folks haven't figured it out, Rebekah's in the studio today.
Yeah.
Not always here.
This is always a treat to be able to work with you and come in and really...
Yeah, it is.
Get it going. And just because it's St. Patrick's Day, let me give them a little bit of a dose of the Irish, a little dose of the Scottish in me. So I know a little something about drinking. It runs in the family. I would say there's a bunch of drunks in the family. Uncle Brian's a drunk, and God knows the rest of them. They're probably all dying in the graves today, rolling over, being with their good cat. None of them are Protestants, I'll tell you that much. This color green
They're
thing.
They're probably all waiting for you to carry on the good name.
That's not going to happen. All right, so that's enough of that. But I just want to say, in my best Scottish voice, happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you out there that don't even have a clue about what it's about, but you're just drinking green beer and eating your sausages. You fucking Americans.
And that's why the podcast is tagged explicit.
Yes, every time. So there's so much ground to cover when we don't meet up. I want to cover everything. I also want to throw in like dating apps and hooking up and sex because that's all part of the porn thing. What people don't realize about dating apps and is it's part of the porn industry. And people are just fooling themselves, right? They're totally like, no, I'm going to find a relationship. And some people do, but that relationship is predicated on hooking up. It's predicated on like sex first, questions later, more often than not. And here's something I heard on one of the radio stations that one of the number one dating apps you wouldn't think of that's being used is LinkedIn.
What? What do you... LinkedIn?
Speaking of jobs. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
How is it used in LinkedIn? I mean, not that I want to apply this knowledge, but I'm just curious.
He just has a friend who's curious about it. I think that, it sort of makes sense, right? Because you're like, you can see because the number one question when you meet people, if you're going to go networking or whatever, is what do you do? Right? What do you do? It's not like, tell me about your soul, unless you're in Boulder or Encinitas or something like that. And someone's just like, here's the ayahuasca. So I think that they're using it just, searching and they're like, well, there's a picture, that person's attractive. And it's the same sort of thing. You're not meeting in person.
That's the meaning they give it.
Yeah.
Got it.
You're not meeting in person and they're like, I already know what you do. So you want, let's get together for a business drink and wink, nudge. And what good would I be if I didn't have an actual experiential story? I'd be shite. So yeah. But before I go into the story, like I like to go to the way back, which was a Tuesday, and just ask because you've seen dating completely change over the course of your lifetime. And what, and this sounds so, I don't mean it to sound ageist, but what was it like before the internet?
It was coffee, tea, music events, largely. Long phone calls, conversations. where, you know, you can actually tell what's going on with the other person by the inflection in their tone, in the tone of their skin, the glistening eye or not, and just the energy and the, you know, it's like, and if I mention, I've learned a lot about Biofield recently, and with Jessica Louis Brandt on Alternative Health Tools podcast, releasing today.
Plug.
Yeah, plug. No, it was really awesome. So there's that energy between us. Like you have your Biofield, I have mine. You know, it doesn't happen across the text. It doesn't happen across Facebook. It doesn't happen even across the telephone.
And you had to have like the bravery to like get a girl's number, you know, to like actually cross the room, or sometimes it might be like a friend of a friend setup kind of thing. Like, oh, I got somebody for you. You got to totally meet this guy. Right. You know?
So, I mean, you know, and then I would meet somebody I was attracted to, and then I would ultimately, you know, pretty soon ask them, recognize me? It's like, no, should I? No, I just wondered if you did. So there were pickup lines. Yeah. Okay, pickup lines is where I was going.
I would say that,
I don't know, did that still exist today?
Well, I would say that's really like, again, to go back to like the, you know, I mean, as campy as it is, there's the pickup lines out there, and there was the ones that came out of comedy, like, are you Jamaican? Why? Because you're Jamaican me crazy. Right?
I haven't heard that one yet.
Is that a mirror in your pocket? Why? Because I can really see myself in your pants.
Those are lines women say to men, right? Or is it the other way around?
Yes, totally. And the last but greatest of when I was a teenager, my friend Josh, my first love, we were hanging out with my best friend Amy at the time, and we got outside the car, and he like ran up to her and he like hit her on either side of the hip, and she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Just beating around the bush."
Oh.
So maybe not the best pickup lines. Those are all the comedic ones. But I think, you know, a classic one, hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
And now it happens over this weird, and I just can't help but like compare it to sort of like Catholicism, because you have this intermediary called like your texting, or this like third party kind of what dating app or this like in between. It's like, instead of just this one-to-one where you're meeting face-to-face, facial expressions, body language, all of that. Biofield. And are we going to we'll put some information in the show notes about that for sure. Yeah, just picking up the vibes.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, picking up people's vibes. And also over conversation. It's weird because what I notice what happens, and enter the story, that when you have this third party, it almost turns into like this confessional of like, it becomes like you like barriers down, filters down, and people start to show, whether they know it or not, it's like almost like their subconscious or your id has a field day over text. And just for people that don't know Psych 101, because we have lifestyle psychology all over, pop psychology, which is, as an actual counselor, is both invigorating and annoying, because people kind of have just the surface idea of psych. So let's go into a quick lesson and then the story. Freud, Papa Freud, I'm sure we all know, a cigar is just a cigar sometimes, since he was into everything being phallic. He came up with the psychological structure: id, ego, and superego. So, John, what's your understanding of, you know, that classic psych, the id, ego, superego?
I don't actually have any concept. I mean, no, seriously, I don't. I mean, there was a period of my life where I studied and read it, but it's not too much of my consciousness anymore. I'm aware of what ego is. Right. I have a good friend of mine, and as I say to them, you got a really healthy ego. Yeah. So there's a healthy ego where there's a drive and there's a mental thing. And I think also at the same time, there can be heart incorporated into it. So, but that's not the definition you're going to be talking about. Well,
let's just go down the road. The main model you see is an iceberg, right? Okay. Above water, below water. Okay. So above water is the the ego. That's what we show the world. That's the face that we're just all like, I got my shit together. I am a driven person, pay my bills, like the ego. And it really wants to look good, sound good, belong, but also be a little bit like ahead of the pack, like the alpha tends to be. And there's balanced ego and unbalanced ego. That's another podcast.
So it's often not congruent. The reason I'm saying this is, I hate to stop you here, but not really, is that I was making a correlation between that and the astrological, there's a sun sign, moon sign rising.
Sure. So what you see throughout psychology and a lot of different geometry, a lot of different architecture is the Trinity, the three. And the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. We see it in Brahma, Vishnu, and Kali, if I got that right in Hinduism. So, again, I have to fact check some of these, but we see three a lot. And so, id, ego, super ego. Super ego is that like higher sense of self that is like, has a moral compass, is thinking of others, is sometimes our true north, our guide. It has our best interest in mind. It can practice humility. It's not about all saving face. It's like, it can take ownership. It's really like the best version of us, and it has like this global connectedness sort of thing. Then there's the id, which is like the Noid from the old pizza things. That the id is just this primal, I want it when I want it, how I want it, give me. That's the id. It's just like, it's very primal. And in the brain, there's three things in the brain too. The cerebral cortex, the meaning maker, that's the bigger part of our brain, the middle brain, the limbic system, which they call the animal brain, and the lower part of the brain, the reptilian brain, which is just, again, those could be compared to the id, ego, super ego. So without going into a complete seminar about biology and psychology and philosophy, I just say that to set up that when you are when you're going through this time space continuum that's life, and you get the urges, you want to meet somebody, or you have discomfort, right? The id's like, give me. And henceforth, today's podcast, porn, booze, drugs, and now, and in the vein of what we're talking about that app dating is really part of the porn industry. Just to review. To keep it tight.
If I must say, the id,
yeah,
it sounds like a Star Trek episode title, the id, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of, and it's just like, and it's this thing that we all, and there's something we all like to think the best of ourselves, right? Well, I'm a good human. Maybe I stole that thing, but I'm actually basically good. I'm a good person. And the id really, and this goes, and then after Freud, I guess we're going to do a little psychology today. After Freud, there was his student Jung, Carl Jung, Jung, who did some exploration into archetypes. And one of the primary archetypes, and this has weaved its way into the alternative community, is the shadow. This is the subconscious. So that's something else Freud came up with, is the conscious mind, like the percentage of the world that we are actually aware of. And then there's all the little producers in the background, right? So it's
known or unknown.
Yeah. Unknown in the shadows. Much like when we watch a movie, right, that has CG in it, we're just like, we see that the finished thing. But when you look at the actual making of the movie, it's just a green screen there, right? So our conscious mind is like the world out here. We're thinking, well, this is the complete picture, but there's 1,000 million things going on behind the scenes. So here's what's fun. And this is why I believe app dating is a little bit like a confessional that leads to somewhat of like, free prostitution for people. Is because when you start texting people, there's like this weird filter that people, just in the same way drinking does, it lowers your, what's the word? Defenses? Lowers your...
Inhibitions.
a bit. Yeah. Yeah. So, so you tend to be a little bit more candid than you normally would be face to face. I've literally had a texting conversation, said, let's call. And the person switched energy from the text to like, you're so hot and I just want to lick you from your head to your toes. And like, I've known this person for 3 days, right? I'm a pleaser. I totally get down with the girl. And then I talk to him. He's like, hey, so anyway, about business.
It's like, what? Well, no, I'd like to talk to the person I was just...
I'm going to charge by the minute here, you know? And it's really pretty normal in our conversations that we're like, it's like this hypersexualized energy. And if you look up the word on Urban Dictionary and also in the hip hop community, the word is thirsty. That bitch is thirsty, which means that desperate for, you know, get some action, or desperate for some sort of money or something, that she's thirsty. But we're all thirsty. There's this thirsty culture that's coming up. I'll get through all the stories. There will take 1 minute each. Go get some popcorn or chips or whatever. Kale, if you're Californian, get your freaking
kale chips.
Get your roasted kale chips.
Which are good. I like them.
Oh yeah. Those will also go in show notes where to get your roasted kale chips. So there's this great app called Shapr, SHAPR, Shapr. John's taken some notes, so you'll hear some scribbling in the background. And I loaded this. I was on Instagram and I saw this app advertised and I loaded it. And it's meant to connect entrepreneurs. And so I've used it and it's totally opened up my world because it makes marketing so much easier. You plug into different groups and it's fantastic. So I ended up getting invited up to the university club because of the app. And then most recently, I connected with a guy up in Long Beach who is working with a naturopath. And we just had a conversation about, you know, that it's a very, I guess, almost cliche conversation. I was in the corporate world. I was getting paid really well, but I wasn't very happy. And so I went and did ayahuasca, right? Or I did psychedelics and it feels like I had this awakening and then, wanted to click into being a life coach or a healer in the nutrition world. And what I would say, and as just my own little caveat, is I think that's amazing. I think that's in the direction that we're going, is we're all trying to return to this like plant medicine, and to be more in harmonics with Mother Earth and being more feminine. But I also feel like we're still battling with the human condition, which is that we're consumers and we're sort of frauds in the process. And so I could feel like in interacting with him, there was this old frat boy part of him. And then there was this new like helper nutrition person. And it was a cool conversation. I was like, it was very much like, you know, table tennis. What do you do? What do you do? What's your life been like? What's your life been like? All right, I have this story. Okay, I have this story. And it was a good conversation. And then, because I follow the energy of things, I could feel like there was more to the conversation that was more like personal. Like, are you dating anybody? Like, what's your world like? And it quickly devolved into like, you're so hot, and talking about sex. And because sex is the intersection of everything. It's about our mental state, our physical state, our financial state, like our spiritual state. Like when we talk about the way that we talk about sex or the way we talk about money is very much sort of a avatar of our subconscious, our ids and our egos. So he started coming hard at that. And he said he just got out of a relationship like of 5 years, and he was just like, you're so hot. And then part of me, you know, the part of me that's thirsty was just like, yay, compliments. Yay. Just keep them coming. but then I said the word monogamy. Like we've got a little bit of background noise. I said the word monogamy because I don't want to be a slut this year. And he was like, whoa, let's just keep it business. And I had to be like, so a couple different things. Totally cool. We all have to know where we're at and communicate that clearly. But being on the receiving side of abruptness, somebody who just goes totally on the accelerator, then totally on the brake, I have to tell you, it's one of the hardest. That lurch is one of the hardest tests of character, because you can take it as rejection. And as soon as the rejection shows up, the rejection monster, it pings all your old experiences, all the stuff you didn't get from your parents, the too much stuff you got from your parents, just the sort of, again, however old you are, rejection touches all of those like wounds. It's like, hello, did you think that was closed up? No, salts in it. And it takes quite a bit of humility, using the first law of the 4 agreements. Don't take it personally. Be impeccable with your word. I don't know what the other 2 are. Googles. And that lurch happened. And I was just like, okay, well, first off, when you meet somebody, and they're all about you and they think you're so hot and whatever, it has nothing to do with you, because you have this third party in between you. So it's really about their id, their driving force, what's motivating them, what their direction is, what they want, and this really masculine penetrating force. And ultimately, I will say as a female, like, we're built to be receptive. We're built to sort of be like, how can I please you? What nurturing thing can I do for you? And also we're thirsty. We have that sense of like, I want connection, and, I want this solid relationship to come of this dating app. But what's coming out of it is why I say it's part of the porn industry, is hooking up big time. So, I just went through the lurch, like, yay, I'm getting all this attention. Woo, this is going to be cool. I get to know somebody. And then they're like, because I put a boundary down around what I'm really wanting. And then what happens, you start to think I'm weird for having a boundary.
You took it personally.
Yeah. I'm weird for having a boundary, or it's not okay that I am not just, easy with my body, that I don't just like fling my body out like a ninja star, which 2016, that's what was going on, because I was so driven by loneliness. And we did a podcast on this. The thing that helped me get over or actually cope with loneliness was getting offline for a month, month-ish. It was actually 2 weeks, and then I touched back in for business purposes. But it helped me step away and be like, wow, when you actually just come back to the real world and not this like 2-dimensional exchange that's happening, and you come into this 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, and if you want to cross into the spiritual 5th-dimensional sort of like robust reality, and you feel loneliness, you understand that it's not scary. It's not scary. It's just connecting you back to you. That's why did you feel that? That was the truth bomb. Loneliness is we're desperate for ourselves. We're desperate to connect mind, body, and spirit within our own sphere, to be still and know that I am God, to be still and know that I'm God. So, so I just had this experience having to go through like the ego layers of like, well, this feels like rejection. It's asinine. How could you talk to somebody for 3 days and feel rejected by them? There's very little energy, time, space, and energy, but it just becomes this lint trap of all the times you were rejected, or all the times you wanted to be in a relationship, or all the times you didn't make enough money, or all the times like, so this is, God, it's just, I mean, as far as your experience, is this a conversation that you've heard a lot as far as people, like trying to meet somebody online, trying to have connection, and then just it's not working.
I've had a few conversations with people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've experienced the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's, but yeah. I have not been socializing, quote unquote, socializing in the real world much. Mm-hmm. But when I do, I want to be totally present. And it's like when somebody out there is not, and they want to connect with me, but there's, I guess, the id operating or something else, not the super ego, even close. But, it's just like, I'd just soon be alone with me. And that, I don't think that's exactly real healthy. But yes, I experienced that with people. I think people largely have a big problem with intimacy. And intimacy sort of like is a tough, buzzy word, and it's not sex. Yeah. Or it is. I mean, as you've heard me say before, sex is a lot more than 4 feet in bed.
Yeah.
So the biofield can be construed, and it is in some way a sexual experience. If we're talking energies, we're talking positive, negative, yin, yang. It's a part of an energy exchange, but it doesn't have to just take place in bed. It can take place, at the grocery store with the checkout person. All you got to do is be present, be willing to be present.
Well, that's such a really good point. So story number 2 is I have to network my ass off to get my business going. And again, that's why Shapr was there. And then it turned into just like people on LinkedIn are also linking in, like whatever. So that was the sex noise in case you guys didn't catch that. So I have to network a lot, and I hate the elevator. What do? I just want to be like, wave my hands and be like magic and then run, but now I just say, sex therapist, author, counselor, spiritual person, tarot card reader, and psychic sometimes, just like but what is it? I have had to sit back and be like, really, what is my place in this world? What am I doing? And a lot of times I have to say, like, I'm being animated by a force greater than myself, by spirit, by God, by Brahma, whatever you believe in, that there is this, that my body is a vessel and a vehicle for light. And in that way, I often go into the shadowlands of despondency, despair, fear. And I sit there in this really, like, I'm a petulant bitch sometimes. Like, I am just an asshole because I go and I brood. Like, I have this brooding, like, where it's like, I don't want to be afraid of the dark alley of emotion that all of us are, like, gleaning over. I was like, let me go in there. Let me go, like, knock, knock, the secret handshake. What is it? Fuck yourself. Like, and I do. I fuck myself over all the time, literally and figuratively. So, like, because I'll go into those dark places that people avoid. And I had this conversation last night when I was networking. What do you do? Tarot card reader, sex therapist, counselor, author, comedian part-time, and podcaster, and so on and so on, and wannabe model. So we started talking about, like, who I help and how I help. And I was like, listen, dude, I got some major competition. It's called alcohol. It's called drugs. It's called porn. It's called, I would say those were the 3, weed, but weed goes into drugs. And I was like, TV, Netflix, entertainment. I was like, I have these major, other counselors, I can get hung up on the life coaches. Like, how come you fuckers went to a seminar and you're getting paid double what I make? This is bullshit. That's a whole other story. But, like, I just had this moment where I was like, oh my God. And that's why this podcast is called what it is. I was like, these are, like, major players in our world. If you celebrate, you have a drink. If you're depressed, you have a drink, right? If it's Tuesday, you have a taco with a margarita and a drink, right? Or a cerveza. That's beer. Again, we're in this time in history where we're legalizing marijuana, cannabis, and we're taking it from this medical realm into this recreational kind of thing. So we're starting to have a different mindset about this very powerful drug. Let me just say, for anybody who's ever ate weed,
brownies.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like I ate it and I couldn't like talk for like an hour, and I was like pacing outside of this like concert, and I was like, I'm going to die. And I had to like hang onto a bike rack, and I finally, after 20 minutes of thinking about it, looked up at these people and I was like, help, help me find my friends. So it's super powerful, and entertainment's at our fingertips at all time, all like smartphones all time. And in fact, they're, the notifications on the phone are like little rat feeders, right? Ding, 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 ding.
Rat feeders.
Yeah. You get the message, right? You're
sure.
like sugar pill, sugar pill, sugar pill, sugar pill, right?
Yeah.
And so every day you're just like linked. And when you do that, it's like the companies, and God bless them, are collecting data about your behavior.
Oh, yeah.
And they're so that they can market accordingly and adjust accordingly, so they can have the most of your attention and your time. And what other commodity do we all share that is the most precious? But time, right? But time. And so there's all these different ways to anesthetize, to numb, to entertain out loneliness. To continue the externalization of what we really need to be able to connect to internally. And I will say a caveat about this, and then I'll bounce it off of you, is that one of the major pet peeves I have is when people are just like, go within. You need to know yourself. You have to love yourself first before you can love somebody else. And I was like, I really think it's brave to be in an intimate relationship. And I really think that knowing yourself involves commitment to your craft, to your relationship. To be in relationship is to know yourself, is to be able to be willing to see the ugly shadow show up and come out. That I'm a petulant bitch, I'm controlling. I have fear that drives it, and to sort of see it and say, okay, well, once it's called out into the light, from the shadow into the light, then we have a choice about if we're going to reenact it, keep doing it. So yeah, I'm just really aware, as the continual struggle we have in the human condition about living on the surface external level versus versus I don't think it's the internal level, but living in the helix, right? Living in the sense of where it's like this weaving in and out, like we're on the outside, we're on the inside, we're on the outside, we're on the inside, we're on that. My hands are doing wavy things. So in your sort of experience, because you said something, you're like, you kind of will tend to cocoon a little bit and just be like, I'd rather spend time. So how do you find your way back to the sort of the balancing, like the helix, the going out, going in, going out, going in?
Lately, I've taken stuff off my plate that have no meaning for me. So it's a little bit of reassessing vows. I will never, I always will. This is me. Just
I was
anything.
Raised this way.
Yeah. So I'm going to take it back to, I actually want to take it. So I think I answered your question, but I want to also take it back to this whole notion of people, you got to really know and love yourself. So here's what I'm going to tell you, audience. You want to find yourself? Lose yourself. And my choice was service. I found myself when I completely let go of myself and focused on something else outside of myself, service. And I think this is part of why the military is so great, because it gives young men and women an opportunity to lose themselves in something larger than themselves, no matter what you think about all of that.
The ideology of
Yeah, exactly. You want to find yourself? Lose yourself. I chose service. And I continue to do it, and I'm sitting here doing it right now.
Yes. Amen. Hallelujah to that. I just suck it to you, because because there's one self-development course after the next. And what I want to really encourage and say is that is a level. It's not the arrival. Self-development is a level. And then service. And then, but starting at the point where you're like, well, I just want to help people. That's a level too. But it's like, okay, an engine does not make a car. It needs a body around it. A skeleton does not make a body. It needs flesh, bone, and spirit to animate it, right? And we are all made of levels. And I love what Bishop Jake says. He's like, for every level, there's another devil. For every time that you have to face this edge, the abyss, the unknown, the discomfort, that's another level of where you have to like be willing to go into your super ego and lose face to say like, I might want to be a stand-up comedian. I might totally bomb and suck at it. Right. So the reason I think that I have, and all of us have such a stiff competition between drinking, drugs, porn, and entertainment. And again, when it comes to entertainment, there is just this sort of double edge, like, yes, for the expressiveness of the arts, yes, for people that want to be actors and and all the way from the sitcoms to the dramas to whatever, how we're reenacting. It's like we're reenacting life and we're putting it in these containers called movies, right? And we're feeding it. Some of it is totally exaggerated, and some of it is, again, most of it's kind of exaggerated. It's cross sections. It's not like the story that goes on forever, right? And so we always get this sense that we should arrive somewhere, that, I arrived at the self-development level. Great. Like, I'm a self-development coach. So what I really want to offer to people is like, there are things that are going to come and go from your life. There's going to be this long period of the unknown. But I think that the reason that my line of being a counselor is challenged by booze, porn, and sex and entertainment is because those are the quick id fixes. They're urgent, they're available, they're predictable, and they're repeatable. I'm going to say those three things again. Feel free to get your notepad out. The reason that alcohol, drugs, entertainment, and all of that is where people kind of go externalize their emotions, is because they are repeatable. I can always get a beer and feel a certain way, right? I might have to, if you're an alcoholic, you might have to drink a 12-pack before you feel the way you did when you first started drinking, because you build up tolerance. Same with drugs. It's not the same level. Like, you have to drugs actually require your commitment, your time in your life as well. And same with like, entertainment. We don't just watch a movie, we binge watch series now. We take days of our lives out on these particular series to get the same sort of lift or the high. And I feel like the reason it's quote unquote competition is because we can repeat it. It's predictable. If I go to this, I'm going to get this out of it, more or less. And it's reliable. It's readily available, and it's cheap. It's cheap. Like, watching stuff on your computer is quote unquote free. We don't really account for the time. Drinking is relatively cheap-ish, right? But what we're paying with is our lives. What we're really paying with is like this, what slowly happens is this diminishment of quality of life. And then you see people start to get into the pharmaceutical drugs because they're depressed, they have anxiety, they don't understand why they are thirsty and numb and completely disembodied and disassociated from their lives. Let's just have a moment of silence for all the people across the world who are disembodied, disassociated, depressed, anxious, shut down, and zombies. Zombies are real, people. Yeah. So I would say at this point in the podcast, service, and thank you for bringing that up, John. Service is huge, but how do you get from where you're at, if you're disassociated, disembodied, addicted, to feeling a sense of connectedness, joy, happiness? And I want to say happiness is a moving target. It's a really good sales pitch for a lot of people in the mental health and life coaching field. Like, feel happy, live your best life. I was like, be at peace with who you are. That's what I do. That's what freedom is. Truth shall set you free, because when you are able to tap into your shadow parts and just pull them out and realize that loneliness is not as scary, failure is not that scary, like debt is not that scary. In fact, we have debt because of denial of parts of ourselves. Because we get lazy, complacent. I know I do. I hate accounting. And because I hate accounting, I struggle with finances sometimes. Because I'm like, I can have nice things too. So these podcasts, no matter how irreverent they are, no matter how heartfelt they are, or whatever the energy is that comes through them, is really an invitation to say you're not alone in this thing called life, this human condition that we're all figuring out together, and that you don't have to use drugs or blame or any of those things. It really is, find, if not me, right? And sometimes it's not a family member. Find somebody, it could be clergy, that can be an objective ear, right? And not the internet. Don't post it on Facebook. You're just screaming into the abyss. And maybe you get a couple likes or feedback, but that's only going to perpetuate this like need for actual 4-dimensional, 5th-dimensional connection. Find somebody who can really listen to you until you can speak enough, until you can hear your own soul. Ooh, it can make me cry saying that. Where you can, or you write, or you paint, or you create art, or you... And until you get in contact with this thing that's animating your body, and that when you go to networking things, when someone says what do you do, you realize that's not who you are. It's the end.
May I?
Yes. Yeah.
So I do a fair amount of networking, and people say, "What do you do?" Mm-hmm. And I say, "Well, actually, I'm not going to tell you what I do. What I'm a lot more interested in is, who are you?"
Yeah.
And I don't need to know what you do. I need to know who you are.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know who I am. And then we can talk about what we do.
Yeah.
Because going full circle back to service, there's one organization that I'm involved in. It's a nonprofit, 3 hours twice a month. And I help them. And I consistently walk out of there empowered, feeling lots of love, and absolutely fearless. Oh, yes. And that's a volunteer group.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's, what I have to say about that. I don't really give a rip what you do, honestly. And so for me, it's like everything I look at on Facebook, YouTube, and all the rest of it, I'm always looking for, who are you, not what you do.
Yeah.
And then we can talk. And that's how I got to know this organization, because I basically was vulnerable enough to allow myself in a conversation with a person to just say, this is who I am. And then they invited me to this group.
Do you want to say what the organization is? No?
Nope.
Okay. Just checking. And so to round this out, I really sort of realized that the internet is a behemoth in our lives.
What a great word.
Behemoth. It's just this, it's almost like Cyclops in the old Odyssey stories, you know, and this giant force and,
one-eyed with a limited view.
Yeah. And, we are, as Katy Perry says, we're all chained to the rhythm. Which is her new song. And it's something that is folded into modern culture. And it's there can be magic in it. I've connected with people I would never have connected with because of this giant web. And I've had opportunities come up that I wouldn't have normally had. So I'm not disparaging of it. It's a very important tool. It's a very important database. It's a very important place to sort of make appointments and stay in touch and to do all those things. So yay for this thing in our lives. But I started to really think about, after years in my own business, I've dumped thousands and thousands of dollars into getting my website right, into doing online events, of which I'll continue to do that because it is a behemoth, right? It is a place where people can connect with you and see your face. But I'm investing in going into businesses and just introducing myself as a author, psychic, tarot card reader, blah, 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 whatever else, and meeting people. But beyond that, the 5-to-1 ratio: give, ask. Give more. Like, actually go in and be like, hey, I'm just a local in the community. I'm your neighbor. I just love to get to know you. Do you have a minute? And I will say, this scares the shit out of me to do this. It's scared to be able to have that real time adventure. And so as we close out today, I just want to say that I love it. John just handed me a card that said, activation instructions: go sit with a stranger and make a new friend. Pass this card to anyone you like. You like. That's amazing. Oh, the Eva room. Yeah?
EveEncinitas.com.
EveEncinitas.com. Oh, yeah. Very
so
cool.
That's the best place I know, from Costa Mesa all the way down to, and Encinitas in terms of a community. Best community space I know.
So I know it's not a revolutionary idea. I mean, people have gone door to door and canvassed and different things like that. Oh, yeah. But it's a revolutionary idea to do it for yourself and to find, whatever pods, networking pods or meetups or whatever it is, to have these interactions. So my invitation, because my life's work as a counselor is to provide that space of reflective listening where people come and they share their secrets, whatever, known and unknown, because eventually they come out my job is to facilitate the bringing the shadows into the light and use that safe space of confidential container where people can just share their struggles, their issues, their goals. You don't have to be broken, and none of us are when we go to a counselor. It's just that we all have crossroads, and a lot of us wait till the crisis before we seek help. We come to that place of anxiety, desperation, where actually we're having to use more and more of those porn, sex, and booze. And so the invitation I have for you is, if you're just at a crossroads, you want someone who can really listen to you and provide support, then I ask people to really consider, what is 3 months of your life? What is that? If you imagine just having concentrated support for that period of time where you're completely investing in reconnecting you to you. And of course, there are thousands and thousands of counselors that can do this, but there is only one, Rebekah Freedom. There is only one. So if you would like to connect with me, if you found this valuable, please share this podcast. You can connect with me at RebekahFreedom.com. That's REBEKAH freedom.com. And thank you so much for your time today. I hope it was helpful. You got anything left, John?
That's it.
That's it. All right. Thank you all. Bye-bye.